out in something a bit different, John. What's the story?
Well, I haven't raced since 2006, and I've been doing a bit of track tuition around Croft, and so I bought this car to do some tuition, and then told my wife that that's all it was for. But then, funnily enough, it is a racing car, and with a week and a half to go, we thought, why not? Let's do a race. And so this is it. We've come down. We tried to do a test in it, but it wasn't ready. The engine wasn't running right. But we've got that running, and we've gone out and qualified today. And it seems quite exciting. You know, there's 38 cars, I think, about 20 odd in the same class. So it's similar to Formula Ford in the fact that it's rear-wheel drive. Everyone's the same, but it's a lot cheaper.
The first of two races for the 750 Motor Club Toyota MR2 Championship saw Zach Chapman line up on pole position with Andrei Bogatov alongside. Ex-stock hatch racer George Robinson and John Wilson were on the second row, with reigning champion Mark Jessup down in seventh. Steve Lumley didn't get a flying lap in during qualifying, so he started last for both races.
Too much wheel spin for Chapman meant that he got a poor getaway, whilst further back there was contact between Lumley and Stuart Nichols on the race down to Riches. Chapman's bad start meant that he dropped from first to fifth by the time he made it to the first corner, with Andrei Bogatov leading the field safely through.
Wilson found himself in second position after the start, but on the second lap a forceful move from the recovering Chapman at Sear Corner dropped Wilson down to third. He hoped for a fight back, but couldn't quite match Chapman's pace.
A brief trip onto the grass at Corham on lap 3 did no permanent damage to John Hutchinson's car, but it did cost him 6 positions on his debut in the series.
As the leaders crossed the start line to start their sixth lap, Bogatov thought he had the inside line covered, but Chapman darted into the pit lane exit in order to get alongside, subsequently holding on through Riches and regaining the lead he lost at the start.
There was a frightening moment for debutant American Lee McKee on lap 7 when he dropped a couple of wheels on the grass on the exit of Corham and spun back across the circuit. Fortunately, he ended up out of danger on the infield.
Zach Chapman held off Andrei Bogatov for the remaining laps to take the victory in the first Toyota MR2 Championship race of the season, while John Wilson completed the podium positions.
So, a look at the results confirms that Zach Chapman was the winner by 3/4 of a second from Andrei Bogatov. John Wilson was third, then Guy Hefford and David Bryant, with Steve Lumley from the back of the grid making it up into 8th position. Further back, Matthew Marsh and Clive Morford completed the top 10, with John Hutchinson dropping to 11th place on his debut in the MR2 Championship, ahead of James Cross and Robert Barnett.
Zach, a couple of brave moves in that race. First of all into Sear and then nicking the lead down into Riches.
Yeah, well, I made a bit of a mess at the start and decided to make it interesting for everyone, so I had to catch up on everyone, and to do that I had to put in some moves, but it's part of what being a racing driver is about.
Absolutely. You had a couple of wins last season, but this must be the perfect way to start 2010.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of hard work gone on from everyone over the winter, and we're just trying to get on with this season and get as many wins as we can, and hopefully the title will follow.
Welcome back to Snetterton, where we're getting ready for the second race of the day in the 750 Motor Club MR2 Championship. And there is Zach Chapman on pole position, alongside him Andrei Bogatov. Those two were the top two in the earlier race. John Wilson completed the podium. He's on the outside of the second row, just next to Guy Hefford, number 50. On to the third row of the grid then, you find George Robinson, the ex-stock hatch racer, a good mate of Andrew Minette actually, and Paul Hinson next to him, the man from Bromsgrove. Then it's Alex Lennon and Mark Jessup, the reigning champion. John Hutchinson, who we spoke to earlier on in the programme, he is on the inside of row number 5. Looking further back, you've got Colin Halls, who's the father of sometimes Formula 4 racer Gavin Halls there. Simon Topp is a sales manager in the number 27 car. He's next to Paul Hudson, who's from a single-seater background as well. The American Lee McKee had his first ever car race earlier on today. This is his second, therefore. Sam Mole and Peter Lewis on row number 13 of the grid, ahead of Louise Anderson, who's having her second race as well, the partner of Peter Taylor, who's sometimes out in the MR2s as well. Then right at the back, Teresa Buckley and Steve Lumley, who made it from the back to 8th in race 1. He's got to do it all again in race number 2.
One man who isn't going to take the start is Benjamin Harvey. He was down to be starting in 19th position on the grid, but he hasn't made it out for the start of the race. So Zach Chapman and Andrei Bogatov lining up on the front row as this strong MR2 field will roar down into riches. The 5-second board is held aloft. We're looking back down the field. The lights are on. And the lights are off, and we're underway on board with David Bryant starting in 10th place as he heads down into riches for the first time. A little bit of a nudge from behind and big contact through a brake marker, and he's going to spin back across the track, and cars are diving to the left and to the right to avoid him. Scary moments on board with Louise Anderson. Fortunately, everyone has got through cleanly, and I don't think we're going to have a safety car or anything because they've all managed to drive off the start-finish straight pretty well. So a very lucky escape for many people there. As we look further back down in the order, here's Paul Hudson and Robert Barnett. Robert Barnett is a 30-year-old from Toaster. They're going side by side as they head down into the S's for the first time, but an action-packed start, Ian.
Well, it certainly was very dramatic stuff. It looked like John Hutchinson was involved there as well from what I could see from my vantage point as they turn their way into the S's. So it's Bogatov leading, then it looks like John Wilson and Zach Chapman are almost equal second. There's Alex Lennon, the former Max racer, a little bit further down the order, but this is another look at what happened on board once more with David Bryant then. Now, I think he got some contact. Yes, he did, which put him through the 300 yards to go board. He spun across the track, and there were still 25 cars or so to come past him. And albeit with some of them at a virtual standstill, they all made it through. One car that didn't, though, which went off all the way into the barriers, was poor Matthew Marsh, who got a good start. Was trying to go around the outside, but ended up with nowhere to go, really. And he made contact with the barriers as he tried to avoid contact with any of the cars. But no need for a red flag. Don't run safety cars here at 750 Motor Club meetings, but the race does continue.
Absolutely, it was a real shame for Matthew Marsh to end his race in the Armco like that, but we've got good battles further back then as they head around Riches, and John Wilson very sideways on the exit of Riches. He's going to lose a few places there surely, and well, no, he seems to have managed to hold it as they exits the corner, but he's got Mark Jessup up alongside him, so it's Wilson and Jessup side by side. Well, Jessup's dropped back a little bit and he's got Zach Chapman right behind him, so three cars right together heading down into the S's. It's John Wilson on the inside. Andrei Bogatov now has pulled out a bit of an advantage, and the red car of Zach Chapman is looking right to the inside as they head into the S's. On board now with John Wilson, and a little bit of contact perhaps there with Mark Jessup, who flies off across the grass and right back on in front of Wilson. Very lucky to avoid an incident there, and that could be Zach Chapman darting through on the right. Indeed it is.
Yes, so he capitalised and he goes up to third position, I think that is then, with Andrei Bogatov pulling out a little bit of a lead now from Mark Jessup in second place, Chapman in third, and Wilson loses another position as well. Up towards the chicane they come then. Looks like Paul Hinson, I think, making a move there in the yellow car, number 29. He gets it through ahead of John Wilson as well, who is losing positions hand over fist. Alex Lennon is about to line him up as well, but it's Bogatov that's coming towards us from the reigning champion, Mark Jessup, who was hoping to move up to Ginetta G50s this season. Couldn't get the budget for that, so back into MR2s he has come. And there's John Wilson going through shot to the 33 car as well. That is George Robinson, who is dicing there with one of the Rogue Motorsport cars prepared by Patrick Mortel's concern. Patrick not taking part in these races this weekend. We saw him out in the MR2 Super GT races yesterday. Oh, and problems there. That's the number 67 car.
Lee McKee.
Yeah, Lee McKee there, the American driver. We saw him have a moment in race one. Again, it looks like he's lived to tell the tale though, Jack.
Yeah, absolutely. Recovering back onto the circuit now, but he's lost quite a handful of positions. And there is David Bryant in the pits. Front right puncture. Look at that. Flat tyre obviously caused from his incident at the start, which we saw on board with him. He was heavily involved with.
And he's just driving into the pits in a very casual manner with his elbow up on the door frame there. Ooh, is that John Wilson? No, it's not. It's
Jessup and Bogatov.
Jessup and Bogatov, the two leaders. But there is Paul Hinson getting very out of shape. He was in, I think, 5th or 6th position. He rejoins the track in relatively undramatic fashion, but he's going to lose a place to John Wilson.
Yep, a fairly easy pass for John Wilson down the Revit straight after Hinson lost his momentum as they head down into the S's then. Let's see what's going on. Bogatov has turned his windscreen wipers on. It's getting a little bit rainy here at Snetterton. Nothing too serious at the moment, but Jessup is in second, and Zach Chapman has turned his lights on to try and frighten Mark Jessup, but I don't think that's going to work as they head around Gorham and down into Russell. Chapman is no doubt going to be trying to make backup positions after his race win in the earlier race, and is Jessup looking up the inside of Bogatov here? I think he is. Late on the brakes, Bogatov turns in, no contact between them, and Bogatov holds the lead, so well done there, the Russian from Cambridge hanging on around the outside, and now these three are going to be mighty close as they head over the start-finish straight. Chapman is closer to Jessup than Jessup is to Bogatov, but they are almost inseparable as they cross the start-finish line. Bogatov stays close to the inside line. Chapman dives out to pass Jessup. Bogatov comes across to close the door, and there's a little bit of rubbing there as Jessup turns in, and he runs very wide onto the sort of concrete on the edge of the circuit here, and then he squeezes Chapman up against the inside line. Chapman retaliates by pushing him out wide outside and very wide for Mark Jessup. These three are battling really hard.
So Jessup has lost an awful lot of ground there. He's almost back into the clutches actually of Guy Hefford, fourth place man in the 50 car. It's Andrei Bogatov that continues to lead as we go on board with Louise Anderson. Well, the conditions are getting a bit more tricky now, which might explain some of the wayward moments we've been having on board here with Louise Anderson as the rain falls. She's got a couple of rotating cars in front of her. Looks like she joins in.
Yeah, but it was Simon Top and Paul Grimmett who spun in front of her by the looks of it, but Anderson in fact came out on top, and she's now, we're on board with her, heading down into Sear. You can hear her as going around the outside there. Who's that? That's Peter Lewis, but you can hear how gentle she's having to be with the throttle and the brake as they head out onto the Revitt straight, and Mark Jessup getting a little bit sideways on the exit of Russell, and even more sideways for Hinson, and he's going to come under pressure from John Wilson now, and even more sideways for Alex Lennon. They're spinning and falling like flies here.
I just wonder if it's wetter on this part of the circuit than it is on others, because it did seem to catch 2 or 3 drivers out there. We saw a couple of drivers, including a spinning top at Riches a couple of moments ago. There's Lennon, he's lost a lot of ground. He's running side by side with the 42 car there. That's Colin Holt, the Haverhill man. Down the start and finish straight they go. Oh, who's that taking a very unusual line? It's Jessup, isn't it, from second position, or third position I should say, and that has let Guy Hefford, I think, go through up into P3. So Jessup goes down to 4th place. And these conditions, well, they're really testing out even the best and most experienced of the drivers out there.
Where's Bogatov? Andrei Bogatov should be there in front of Zach Chapman, but he's not. And so as Jessup battles behind, it looks like Andrei Bogatov has gone missing somewhere.
So this is for second and third, and the second place man, Guy Hefford, loses it all over the grass he was coming out of the S's towards the bomb hole. So Jessup now moves up to P2, but no sign yet of Bogatov. Where's he gone?
Hopefully we'll find out at some point. We're on board now with John Wilson. Is that Bogatov in his rear view mirror there? I think this could be Andrei Bogatov launching up the inside. It is. So Bogatov has had issues, and now this is a battle for 5th place as Bogatov goes very wide. So Bogatov dropping down the order substantially. We didn't see what happened, but now he's side by side with John Wilson as they come through Sear, and that's very sideways from Wilson. Can he hold it? Yes. No, it's snapped back the other way and into Bogatov. A big incident there, a big collision, and that's going to have severely damaged both their cars.
Yes, Bogatov, well, he's just pulling to a halt, isn't he, on the side of the Revitt straight, but he was assaulted by an out-of-control John Wilson there. Bogatov, although it was on the grass, I think was pretty much blameless there as he was just trying to avoid that car that was out of shape. Let's have another look at that. So there is Wilson, out of shape, corrects it. Oh no, hang on, it snaps the other way again. Big tank slapper on, and he's got nowhere to go. Bogatov is helpless. There's nothing he can do to get out of that situation. He's been T-boned. Wilson will see if he gets back on the circuit in a moment, but the last lap board is now going out, and the checkered flag indeed is out because Zach Chapman has somehow trod through all of the chaos. He's barely put a wheel wrong. He didn't get a good start, but he's won round 2 of the 750 Motor Club MR2 Championship.
Somehow Paul Hinson is coming home in 2nd place after battling sort of 5th and 6th position. Others were dropping like flies, and Paul Hinson comes across to finish an excellent 3rd, and Steve Lumley from the back of the grid takes 3rd position. Brilliant.
Well, absolutely sensational. That race was all about survival of the fittest, wasn't it? And many drivers from towards the front, they had their moments, but Steve Lumley from the back, from 34th position to 3rd behind Zach Chapman, who takes his 2nd win of the day, and Paul Hinson in his first meeting in the MR2s was 2nd, Rob Barnett 4th, Alex Lennon 5th despite his own moments. Colin Holt and Paul Hudson completed the top 10. Jonathan Grimes was the first of the MR2 Roadsters home.
a pretty good day?
Yeah, it was very good. It's the result we came here for, and we've come away with it with some hard work over the winter with Andy at AW Track Sport and Alex at Rising Sun Racing, but the work's paid dividends and we're on the top step of the podium for both races. It's great.
You kept your head whilst many others were getting a little bit confused in the wet.
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty hot up the front right from the off with Mark and Andre, and it was some interesting moves going on. But then it started to rain and it made it a whole lot more interesting, and we managed to come through it while they suffered some bad luck. But that's what happens in motor racing, and I'm sure my turn will come.